Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to this very special session we have with Erwin Laszlo. I'm Jerry Bieberman, and along with me we have Anna Karina Smith-Kane, and we also have Erwin's son, Chris Laszlo. Where's Chris? There
Right
he is
there.
with,
Happy to
yes,
be here.
yes. And we have people coming in, and we have Gaetan who's helping us with handling the groups and everything else since he's our technical wizard. So anyway, welcome to the session. And we're going to start off by Chris. Would you introduce your father? And he's going to start off the session. Go ahead, Chris.
Yes. Okay, thank you. I want to welcome everyone here, and it's really my great pleasure to be able to to be able to introduce my father, who has had such a major influence on me. So my father began asking these big questions already in his teens and in his 20s. He was a concert pianist, a child concert pianist, and decided that he needed to devote his life full time to asking these big questions about that many of us ask about who are we and what is the nature of reality. And he pursued these topics very seriously, and eventually wrote down notes that were picked up by a publisher in Holland and were turned into books that caught the attention of the chairman at Yale University, who invited him to come and speak at Yale as a research fellow there. And since then, he's been on a life quest to understand particularly the nature of evolution. He's had the good fortune to work with evolutionary leaders, such as the founder of systems biology, Ludwig von Bertalanffy, and the Nobel Prize winner, Ilya Prigogine. And he has been on this quest to understand what is the nature of evolution and life on Earth. What is the nature of reality itself? So, in the sacred quest, he is trying to bring many of these ideas together to think about what does this mean for humanity. And with that, is there anything else you want to add, Dad?
What is the nature of reality? The only answer I can get to is the evolution from the simple to the complex, from the immediate to the circular.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't think we can hear you well enough.
Yeah, I think we need to turn up the volume if it's possible.
Well, volume is on maximum, though.
Then you have to put the mic closer to his face then.
Go ahead, Dad.
Can you hear me a little better?
That's a little
Yes.
better. Yeah, the
Yeah.
closer you can get, the better.
You can also
No.
activate the captions. For everyone in the room, you can activate the caption. It could help as well.
Okay, how do we do that?
Yes.
Probably on the little more, the three dots, bottom right for everyone.
Okay, I've activated the captions. Go ahead, Dad.
The nature of reality, I found the only answer lies in evolution, that we're evolving in the course of time, changing but keeping the core of essence of being, keeping it. We are humans. What makes us human is to pursue our quest for reality together. Then we are one. And here we can then become the core of something that's tremendous, that's unique on this planet. Evolution, conscious evolution. So that is it. You will find the rest of the level. Thanks for coming around here, looking at it. My answer is the conscious evolution, this striving towards conscious evolution is what is typical and what is most characteristic and most essential for the human species.
And it leads to greater oneness, and it
Once you adopt the evolution, as where does it lead to? And if you pursue it's the conscious evolution, which in turn means that you are part of a larger community, which is characteristic of humanity.
I'm sorry to interrupt it again. I think you will have to bring the microphone very close to your dad.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thanks. And how do we do the closed captioning? Because I don't.
I thought there is closed captioning. I've activated it on my computer.
Yeah, but I think maybe we each need to do it. I don't know.
Absolutely. It's
So
a
on
setting
the
for
bottom of your screen, there's something that says more. And if you
Right.
hit that, you will see one of the options is right next to the upper left corner is captions. So
I
you may
Oh,
need
show
to click
captions.
that.
Okay, I got it. Thanks.
This being said, I deactivated it because it wasn't catching half of what your father was saying. So it's a distraction for me.
Oh, okay.
Well, how about this? I think several of us have read his books, not just The Sacred Quest, but many of his other books, and we could try to develop a little further what we understand him to have said, and he can correct us if we're not hitting the mark properly. Would that work?
Is another option to put a telephone in front of his face and call? Sometimes we do that so that we hear him through what is said on the phone.
And it works fine for your voice, Chris. So maybe if you could put the microphone in the same relationship to your father.
No, I'm speaking much louder, that's all.
Oh, okay.
You are also closer.
Not really. No, I'm the same distance from the microphone.
Not quite.
Anyway, what I heard so far your father saying is that you've been looking at the nature of evolution, right? And what I got from reading the book is, and from what your father is saying, is that unlike what previously, the idea was survival of the fittest, and that whole thing, it's more like evolution is kind of like not that. It's almost like purposeful evolution as opposed to just random. Am I
And
right
not
on
only
this?
exactly, that's right, Jerry. And it's also purposeful in a particular direction. It's a direction towards wholeness. The purpose is wholeness. And ultimately wholeness takes the form of oneness.
And then there was something about the big, like there was this move towards oneness, but then was the big with the Big Bang, it kind of like got splintered and now it's moving back together again. Is that also
It's a reinstatement of wholeness, that is oneness, moving back toward wholeness. And that means we are part of a movement, and part of a conscious striving
right?
for oneness.
Anna Karina, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I would love to jump in and Erwin, please jump in and correct me as I go. But I'm going to just for a moment try and interpret the gist of what I got from your beautiful first chapter and around evolution, and how really you have a calling, the sacred quest, which is really about creating the conditions for wisdom to evolve in harmony with all of us. And the sacred quest, this evolution that you talk about in your book, it was really beautiful and eye-opening for me, which is evolution has always been happening. It happened before the Big Bang and it's happening after the Big Bang. And in this evolution, what's really happening is that we're once again seeking this coherence, this for all the elements to come into the sensing and fine tuning in this holotropic attractor that you describe in your chapter, where we're just constantly in this evolutionary path seeking this sensing of each other so that we can evolve in harmony and coherence together collectively. Microorganisms, macroorganisms, galaxies, and cells, all in this fine tuning together. And in your chapter, you also talk about love as a big part of this, because love is how this holotropic attractor is expressed, and how we live in a love imbued universe. So it is love that's really this very special essence of creating this harmony towards the wholeness that you were speaking to in the beginning of this call. So that's really what sticks with me in my heart about what you were saying.
There was nothing to come together before it became separate, before it became structured, so that it became partially random. And now there is a movement back, and evolution is participation in the movement of feeling extinct as beings one, the unified essence.
And in this movement, we can jump in and evolve with this movement, or we can go towards a different path, which you describe pretty tragically as extinction.
Exactly. That's the big choice. There's a difference between good and bad, unified and separate.
And
so what you were saying, and I think I was seeing that the same thing is going on all these levels. So on the cell, right? That's what you're saying. On the cellular level, on the macular level, the same pattern. There's like a conscious pattern as opposed to just things randomly happening. And I think that was the difference between Darwin saying, well, this stuff is just happening by accident. It's like this happened accidentally and this happened accidentally. And what you're saying is no, it's not an accident. It's a conscious.
Yes,
it's a conscious thing.
Exactly. My father calls it a cosmic intelligence.
A cosmic intelligence, yeah.
Cosmic intelligence, which is actually the driver of, at all levels, it's driver of all levels to move away from fragmentation and divisiveness towards wholeness and oneness.
Space, universal phenomena.
A universal phenomenon. And Erwin, you also, one word that came up a lot in that first chapter, in that intrinsic guided, self-guided evolutionary process, is the word impetus. And I love that because it just speaks to me of how this impetus really comes from within, that drive towards evolution and coherence. And I'm very, very called to be a part of this quest, and you call all of us to be a part of it in your book. You say that this quest towards this wholeness is ours, and you do specifically mention the importance of coming together collectively, not just individually doing our own practices or whatever we do, as people always seeking higher levels of personal growth and awakening, but how do we collectively come together?
Well, this is in the field, the dynamic of movement toward oneness is now part of the cosmic field. So as we enter the field, we naturally get embraced by this consciousness. The question is whether we can embrace it consciously, so that we can further it and promote it in our life and in our surroundings.
How do we embrace it consciously? And that's a good question for us to have in the breakouts later. How do we embrace this consciously?
Recognize what it is. Recognize and adopt it as part of our whole major aspects of our life. To move.
And when you talk about the field, I mean, I've been reading in some of the comments, different religions talk about it different ways. I know I think Rumi had some. Rumi has a poem or something about there's the
Yes.
field, right? And
How can none right wrong? Yes.
and it's also it's mentioned in terms of like in many different ways, like quantum physicists will talk about. It almost sounds like it's a similar idea of this unifying field, which is present in the micro level and also in the macro level,
Yes, absolutely.
right?
It's-
Sharda is saying that in Hinduism it's called Dharma. I know there's something in Judaism in Kabbalah where they were talking. There's one concept of when you were talking about the Big Bang. There's something a concept in Judaism in Kabbalah about there was
Ein
this
Sof. Ein Sof.
field nine Sof, right, and then it got shattered. It's almost the same thing. It's like
Yes.
there was Saint Sof, then it got shattered, and now it's being
Yes.
put back together again.
And their coming together is the evolutionary pull.
Yeah,
This is what's moving us in evolution. When we move
yeah,
forward, that means we are more evolved, closer, becoming closer together. How we realize it, make the process conscious so that we realize what it is and we can join it. We can become not a passive participant, but an active role.
right.
And
So that rather than things being random, there's actually a purpose to it, and if we can join in with that purpose, I guess this raises questions like people that are on their own spiritual paths by doing meditation or whatever things, by doing these things, they're joined. It's an opportunity to join into the field.
yes, exactly. That's the
Right.
opportunity for evolution.
Yeah. I mean, I know when the TM people talk about, you have the ocean, and then we're the ocean, but we're also the individual water that's part of the ocean. But each drop in the ocean is a reflection of the whole ocean.
Exactly. Everything is imbued with the drive to redo, to reestablish the oneness that was there before the fracturing came about.
Yeah.
We are on a revolution, returning to the wholeness that we once had and lost. So it's a realization, it's an actualization mission. And everybody who's a drop of water in this ocean is part of it. We are all feeling it and can all contribute to it. And if we don't, it's because we are becoming insensitive to it. But now we need to recover our sensitivity to wholeness. And that means moving to the oneness. And is the ultimate destiny of this universe. Ultimately, we are moving towards oneness.
Chris, maybe you can relate to us what your dad just said.
We're all ultimately moving toward this desire for oneness, for wholeness. It's a dynamic that's built into evolution at every scale, at the quantum scale, at the meso-living scale, at the cosmic scale. And people in humanity, you have people who deny that, they're not open to it. But if you let it, it's like what flows normally in life is a movement towards wholeness.
It's like a big wave and the ripples on the wave. The big wave is toward wholeness, but it's underneath. And it may not realize, may not be actualized. But on top of the big wave, built into it are the smaller ripples, which can be toward or in opposition to the main wave. But the main wave takes us further beyond to the north, it takes us towards wholeness. And we have to recognize it and we have to have the courage to embrace it.
Mm.
Hmm.
And
I notice a couple people are raising their hands and putting
Yes,
comments and questioning it.
let's take
What,
questions if we go to breakouts. Yes, go ahead, Jerry.
So yeah, I noticed there are some questions in the chat, and also Anil and Charlie Tackney have their hands raised. Are we? Let's
Maybe.
do
Okay. Could I ask
maybe,
a question?
Yes, go
well,
ahead,
that's what I'm
Daniel.
wondering. Go ahead.
Okay,
So maybe
Dr.
Anil and Charlie, and
Laszlo.
then we can look at
Okay.
this stuff in the chat. Go ahead, Anil.
Okay, Dr. Laszlo, I'm a big fan of yours. I've watched your videos more than reading the book. And I love especially the book on Akashic Records, which was kind of getting to this notion of where the oneness might happen. My question is more personal. Could you describe in this quest when and how and what were your own experiences of oneness, how it felt, how it came, all that? Thank you.
It seems to be easier, facilitated in the direction along this evolution, and seems to become more frustrated, more opposed, more more difficult to do. Going up, downstairs with the will, or going upstairs against it. That's it. We have to shift the evolutionary will, and we are part of it, and we are being carried by evolution instead of fighting it. So to be one means to have easier to evolve with the tide, and not against it.
Chris, could you please rephrase or
What?
could you please rephrase? I couldn't fully understand.
Okay. Well, I think what he's saying is that the experience of oneness is one that comes from following paths that come with ease. You know, when he formulates new ideas, if it's downloaded to him with ease and it goes on the paper or on the computer with ease and is formulated in a way that is makes sense right from the beginning, that's a sign that it's kind of a dynamic Occam's razor, a dynamic Occam's razor.
Always you're moving with the wave. You're moving, you're part of the wave, and you're moving with it. So you don't have to go against it. You're going downstream with something rather than upstream.
So it's really listening to your heart, listening to your intuition, even as a researcher, understanding what feels like it's naturally going in the direction of ease and beauty and goodness. Yeah.
And Jerry and Chris, I'll jump in with that because there's a phrase in your chapter that to me speaks to that feeling of when things flow through you, and it's about dancing. So you talk about our sacred quest being dancing with Mother Earth rather than on Mother Earth. So how does that feeling of dancing come as a way of connecting to this field?
And we feel connected. We don't know what we're feeling connected to. I think actually we are feeling connected to something that seems better, easier than it was before. More difficult.
Yeah, I mean, as I heard this, I think, Anil seemed to be asking, well, what was your experience of oneness like? And, we all experience it different ways. And Erwin was saying that if I heard you right, for you, it's like, it's so easy for me to come up with these ideas. This is how you're experiencing oneness. And you experience oneness like dancing, different ways different ways for different people. I know I experienced it. I had several just experiences of just like everything being wow, like couldn't even put it into words. Um, but I think that's, I guess, what Anil was getting at. I don't, Charlie, you had a question or you had a comment? Go ahead.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Thank you for doing this. It's absolutely precious. This father-son team on the road globally is a remarkable step. Thanks for making the effort. Just a quick question. about the sacralization of evolution. There was a paleontologist by the name of Teilhard de Chardin, a Jesuit, who wrote a book called The Phenomena of Man. I just wondered if Chris or your father, if you'd come across this and see either parallels or distinctions. That's
Yes,
all.
yes, actually, it's been an influential book for both of us.
That shows what are the advantages of moving with evolution in the direction of evolution. So he recognized it in his researches, and he came up with numerous examples. Don't forget, we are part of it. When we are evolving, we are part of the stream. Light is will be thrown in, and then we are moving with the stream. So this is far, far better than going against it, trying to move against it.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, he was excommunicated, right?
No, he was forbidden from publishing by the Pope and then the Father General before Vatican II because he was suspect, but he was not excommunicated. He died.
Oh.
He's buried at St. Andrew's up in Poughkeepsie. But the fun part is that before he died, he gave all of his writings to a professional editor woman he knew in New York City who was not under the ban that he was. She published everything. And he was very influential in Vatican II. So, yay, women who were editors. But thank you for the answer.
Before we have some other questions in the chat, but there's also some comments in the chat that several people do not want to go into breakout rooms. They rather have everybody together because they figure like we can always talk to each other, and this is our only chance to really hear from both of you. So, so I'd like to get a reading from the group.
Jerry,
Several people
there's
say they don't want breakout groups. I don't know. What do you think, Anna?
Jerry, just on a note to check in with Chris and Erwin, see where the energy level is for Dr.
Yeah.
Laszlo, especially
Good point.
because it's late at night in Italy, and
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for checking, Anna Karina. I also want to say Alexander has joined with a friend. Alexander is also a close collaborator of my father's and has written books together with him. And Alex, I would warmly invite you to also jump into the conversation wherever you think it makes sense. I'm glad you're here. So now you have 3 Laszlos.
Yeah, the 3 Laszlos.
Yes.
But no, one of the reasons we were thinking about breakout groups was because of what Anna just said. It sounds like the people in the webinar would rather have the 2 of you for as long as we can, as long as your father's up to it.
Sure.
So
Well,
I don't know.
what are the other questions? Let's get some more questions.
Okay. So I'm looking at the questions that Richard asked the question. Richard Major. Richard, do you want to say what your question was?
Sure.
Right.
Thank you so much, Erwin, Chris. My question is, if we look at the over-rationality in the world, which has taken over not only business, but education and many other aspects of life, my question is, was there a big push at the time and after the Enlightenment period that brought this rationality and that added to the separation from nature, to the separation from one another, to the separation from the sacred? And I'd just like to have your ideas on how that moment of the Enlightenment might have been a very, how would you say, momentous a moment in that aspect of human evolution.
Well, I think the further that you go, more evident it becomes how you are separating off your immediate destiny, your private destiny, and your corporate destiny from the destiny of humanity. The movement was defined along with the realization that life is not connected, conducted by our connection to God and to religion. It has its own momentum. This momentum is to gain immediate and forceful gain towards for oneness, for oneself, and for one's immediate surroundings and community. This is a progressive process.
So,
to live is to be an advantage. To evolve is to be an advantage for oneself.
And moving towards oneness is an advantage not only for the collective, but it's also even more so an advantage for oneself. One is the beneficiary of it.
The whole community, the whole lifetime. Oneness. Oneness of community, oneness humanity, can be evolved along with this, what we see on the surface as the movement that benefits us. Yet it's not necessarily the short term doesn't necessarily bring the benefits that the long term brings.
Next question.
Yeah, does that, Richard, did that kind of answer your question? Yeah, I was noticing Richard's question raises one for me. I know I was thinking of psychology, which was my original subject area. And, psychology started off with self-analysis and going inside, and then pretty much turned into this whole opposite thing about studying rats running around in mazes, and kind of reminds me of Richard's question in a way. It's like the whole positivistic movement. And now I notice in psychology, there's kind of return to more like positive psychology. And maybe this is kind of a similar thing to what you're talking about here. I mean, we've gone from, uh, religion talking about one thing, and then suddenly the whole scientific emphasis and pushing out the idea of everything being related. And now the two things seem to be coming together. I noticed some of that in some of the chapters in the book too. Am I onto something here?
Absolutely. I think you are, Jerry, because psychology, as you said, has gone from being this deficit-based view for most of the last 100 years. And then Marty Seligman is pulling it in positive psychology, but it's not just positive psychology, it's also prospection, what he calls navigating the future, which is looking at desirable futures that have meaning, and using that dream of a desirable future to pull action in the present towards it.
Yeah, yeah. I noticed that Yochanan has a question. Yochanan Altman. There's an implicit goodness in the theory. Could the tendency explain movement towards evil that we experience also? Yochanan, you want to explain what you mean by this or
Yes,
not?
thank you. Thank you all. Thanks again, Chris and Erwin, for doing that, and Alexander. There is an implicit assumption that I sense throughout that we are going towards a good thing, a movement. And speaking from Europe and London, where I'm now, we had another attack this morning on a synagogue in central London. It now averages about 2 a week. And I'm feeling that we are back in the 1930s in some respect. And I wanted to ask Erwin if he would agree to reflect on his own journey throughout his rich life. I mean, Erwin, you started life in the 1930s, in effect, going through a very dark period. I mean, are we back? I mean, where does evil come into all of that?
The evil is being misguided, it's being mistaken, searching for the good and the wrong side. I think there is no intrinsic evil. Evil is the mistake of what really good, what is bad for the good. So ultimately, I believe that we are all searching for what is good, but we don't find it because we are not searching on the right place.
Is it possible that movement away from oneness and connectedness drives a person towards evil?
It doesn't because anything that is truly a movement toward goodness is driving it toward. It is toward a movement.
Towards goodness, yes. So goodness requires being more connected to yourself, others, and the world around you. But then I think we could also say in the inverse, people who live lives that are very disconnected from themselves, from others, and from nature and from the transcendental are more likely to take the wrong path towards what Yochanan is calling evil. More likely, it's not a direct driver. It's just that if you are disconnected from everything, then you're less likely to.
Being connected means being connected to evolution, truly connected. There are various degrees of being connected. If you are open to evolution, then you are being more connected.
Thank you.
So, okay, I think Judy has a question. Judy, go ahead.
Well, one last question. My father's ready to sign off. Judy, can you make that a short, quick question? Go ahead, Judy. She's a real leader.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. We're thrilled to have the Laszlos here. You make a difference in the world, and it makes a difference to us. My question is about artificial intelligence. I just read an article by Ilio Delia on Substack, a theologian, and she says that artificial intelligence comes from human intelligence and that it's more collective and therefore evolutionary. And so many people are talking about the dangers of artificial intelligence. And she's talking about the consciousness, no, not the consciousness of artificial intelligence, but the oneness that it can support. And so I wonder what you see with where we might go as we keep evolving. Where can artificial intelligence help our evolution?
It can lead to evolution. It brings people together. It's society and organization. It brings everything closer together. If we don't stop at the mistaken notion that we have reached the point which is the optimal point for evolving as humans. The evolutionary process has to be a deep-ended process that people can adopt as their own. Then it can be through evolution. But most of the time, the evolutionary process is taken over in the artificial evolution. It's taken over by the search for immediate satisfaction, immediate grant.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I think we should bring this to a close, Jerry. I also want to say in closing for everyone that at the end of May, there's going to be a 1 hour or 1.5 hour biopic, a documentary movie about my father's life that will be distributed. And
Chris, there's a suggestion, that you and Alexander stay on and share a little bit more with us. Would you be willing to do that?
Sure.
That'd be
Yeah,
great.
so when you're saying bring it to a close, I think what we're doing is bring a close your father's comments. We want to really thank you for that. And then then the question is, do we stay as one group and keep going, or do we break into breakout groups? But first, do you need a second to have your father kind of
I don't think so, Mom. He's on the wheelchair, right?
Yeah.
You can pull him out.
Yes. Here.
Okay.
Jackie should be here anyway, Teddy. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. this opportunity.
Jerry, I have a suggestion, and maybe this is a moment just to open mic and whoever can raise your hand in gratitude to Erwin. One thing that touched your heart from what Erwin has shared with us.
You start, Anna Karina.
Just the courage and the willingness to be here with us. I'm just deeply touched by your presence.
Thank you. Yes. I'm not really well physically, so it takes much effort for me to be here.
That's fun. And this is why we really appreciate you doing this. Yeah. If anybody else wants to say something now before Erwin leaves.
Collectively, I want to thank you for your wishes, for your questions, for all the influence that we give from these questions. So thank you for teaching and for being there. And I hope you will participate and go deeper into the book and then deeper into the illustrated book on the technical part of the evolution. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. And we'll continue this conversation, I guess.
Yes.
Yes. Thanks again. Thank you, Chris, for doing this. Thank you, Erwin, for being here with us.
I'm staying. Just helping my
I know you are.
I'm just helping my mom one bit.
Okay. Well.
Right there, ma'am. Yep. All right.
Okay, so now again, the question now is we still have another 45 minutes, which we could stay together or we could go into breakout groups, and I don't know what the sense is of the. It seems like people still want to stay as one group. Is this true?
I saw a lot of nods to that, Jerry, and there's a lot of, I think, of curiosity around digging into about Erwin's teachings through Alexander and Chris, and we've got both of them here. That's pretty exciting. So
yeah, neat. And also, there's still a couple questions. One was from Peggy Lou about the Akashic records. I don't know anything about that, so but it's an interesting question. Does Erwin believe we can rewrite the Akashic records or the Earth Akashic and a separate galactic Akashic? Do you know anything about this?
Alexander, are you there?
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you, Chris. Good to see you and hi everyone. I can see if I can tackle that a little bit.
All right.
Erwin's holding of the Akashic records is tied deeply to contemporary physics and our understanding of the dynamics of entanglement, but at the same time, it draws on the perennial wisdom of the Vedanta and understandings of the Akashic records as they were first described in that frame.
Okay.
These records, this field, because now he's looking at it as a field of information, and literally, as I'm sure he was been talking about, I had difficulty joining, so I'm sorry I came late, but it is putting form into our world, our being. And these are perennial records. They are not things that we can go and rewrite. He sees the Akasha as universal. There is, again, oneness, right? There's one Akasha. There's not, Rupert Sheldrake, for example, has very different morphogenetic fields. And you can go from there are different fields that are generated around the Earth, around each individuals and in groups and so on. Erwin's holding of the Akasha is more that this is a field that continually evolves in a oneness with all things. We are the field. It is us. And we cannot separate ourselves from it. But the sense is that really we are kind of transceivers. We receive the information, but we also enrich the field at the same time, not just reading out from the field, but also reading into the field. Our vibrational engagement, our levels of coherence contribute to the enrichment of the field in all ways. This harkens to something, and I'm going to I'm going to end here. I don't want to make a big lecture, but this harkens to something that Donna Haraway has been exploring recently. This idea of sympoiesis, this idea of mutual co-arising at in all times of all things. So to suggest that something stands outside of evolution is nonsensical in this frame. Everything co-evolves, everything is entangled, or as Theodore Holmes Nelson says, intertwingled, which I like much better as a word. It has magic to it. So yes, I think
So
that's part.
is this like the butterfly effect where something here deflects, right? Or the idea that if once one person can do it, now everybody can do it, that kind of thing. I remember.
100th monkey thing. But this is the enrichment
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
field, and it reinforces. This is the coherence that we can reinforce. And this,
Right.
of course, is the choice. This is part of what Erwin is writing about so much as well, that
Mm.
if we contribute to the coherence, and he talks about supercoherence being both the coherence within the systems, like within ourselves, and then a
Right.
coherence with our environment, which is the external coherence. And when you have both, you have supercoherence. The more we can do that, the more we create life affirming, future creating, and opportunity increasing dynamics. This, I think, is the opposite of evil. This is exactly this quest towards what Erwin talks about as holotropism, a holotropic movement towards wholeness, towards
Mm.
oneness.
And Alexander, just on Peggy's question, then as I'm hearing you speak, the Akashic records are in effect this field that we can continuously influence with our personal coherence or not. I mean, it would
Yeah.
also work the other way.
We
So
read
in
into
that
it.
sense, we are redoing the field. We are rewriting it every single day with every breath we take, with every with our actions, with our words, with our energy, with our coherence.
Not the
Would that be
past, but
not the
yes, we
past?
are continually writing it. Yes.
Right. It's like a Google Drive document that you can keep adding to, but you can't delete.
Oh my God. Peggy,
Google,
is there
okay,
any? So I'm just wondering if Peggy has any additional
well, that's a good point.
questions. She's here. I don't know, Peggy.
Peggy,
You're
you there?
good? Oh, okay. She's good. She's good. She'll put
Okay,
it on back.
Deborah and Natalia has a question or a comment. Go
Yes,
ahead.
hi everyone. This is fantastic and so meaningful, and thank you with all my heart. I just feel so lucky and blessed to be part of this community and this dialogue. I'm working on a paper to submit for the April 15th deadline for the MSR quantum physics review. And I came across a paper, and I have a quote I'd like to read to you, and I would like your response to it. It says here that this is a quantum physics paper. If one pursues the nature of matter to its roots, at the level of atoms and molecules, all of a sudden one finds oneself in a realm of mathematical forms and numbers, where all matter is lost. Thus, one is led to the view that the basis of reality is non-material, that the entire cosmos can be in a state of harmony. Could you comment on that, please?
Yes, I can comment on that. I happened to have a conversation with my father about that this morning. And he would say that, yes, when you get down to the level of atoms, matter disappears, but it's not mathematical formulas that are in their place. It's energy and information.
Wow.
It actually,
Yeah.
at the very fundamental level of reality, you have vibrations of energy and information. And that's why we live in a dynamic universe. We don't live in a static material universe. We live in a universe, even at that quantum level, that is constantly in vibration and seeking to evolve. And the dynamic of that evolution is always negentropic. Okay, it's moving towards more structure, more organization, more moving towards oneness.
Wow, that is so fantastic. Thank you for clarifying that. And if I may say one more thing to make a pitch for, as the director of the Teaching and Learning Committee, I wanted to share with you that we're going to have a speaker in October. And this work coming out of Harvard so aligns with our work as a committee that there is a movement out of Harvard. It's called the Human Flourishing Project. And what they've done, are you aware of that? Are you
Yes.
familiar with it? And they have, right now they are interviewing, I think it is 150,000 kids from the age of 10 to 18. And their definition of well-being versus flourishing is that flourishing means there's a spiritual component to our spirituality, and that we've forgotten that, lost that, and they're bringing that back. So just thank you for answering my question, and just so excited to be part of this group and this conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, and that last comment is a wonderful comment. Keep in mind. Great.
Thanks for being here with us today.
What was just said, that reminds me, in the 80s, there was the book, what was it called, The Reenchantment. I mean, there was a lot of stuff in the 80s and 90s about bringing spirituality back. And, we had become too mechanistic, and we need to bring spirituality back in.
Yeah.
It also reminds me of, I was thinking a little bit about Yochanan's question. When the internet came up, there was the whole thing about how the internet is going to unite everybody, and now we're all going to get along so well because, and yet at the same time, the internet seems to have led to a lot of trolling, and it's almost like you can go this way or this way. And I guess the question is, I think everything eventually is moving towards love. What do you guys see as what leads people? We've talked a little bit about it before, about disconnectedness from it, and what leads people, how do you get towards everybody kind of heading back towards love, as opposed to, even with artificial intelligence? I mean, the people are saying, getting back to Judy's question, it could destroy us or it could unite us. What's the solution? Just a little question that I thought I would throw in there.
Well, I'm sure all of us may have different answers to that. My answer is that my search for oneness is really something that, as I get older, is increasingly driving my desire to flourish in life.
Right.
And that desire for oneness comes from wanting to have a deep connection, a blissful connection with some people in my life, with nature, with my family. And that's an extraordinary and wonderful and privileged experience to have, oneness. I totally believe that there is an inner drive in human beings, and probably in all parts of the universe, to move towards oneness. Because when you move towards it already, you start feeling bliss. Not to sound too cult-like.
Jerry,
okay.
I'm going to jump in with Erwin's words from his first chapter on the book. You guys should see it. I think I'm blurred, but it's Sacred Quest right here.
Yeah.
And Erwin does say to us that this holotropic attractor, which is constantly seeking this coherence in the universe, he says it expresses as love. And he says it's universal and all-penetrating love. And then he adds, in other words, evolution. And he says we are children of a coherent, love-imbued universe. So it's really, to me, when I read this chapter, for me, this was the most important part of it all, when we're talking about evolution and us joining the sacred quest, which is a choice. This is a choice point we're making individually and collectively. And it's to really be a part of this already love-imbued universe in experiencing love.
Yes. And Anna Karina, you model it so well in your life. So you're a good one to speak about it.
Hopefully. Alexander, go for it.
Yeah, thank you so much. No, this is very powerful. Thank you for the question, Jerry. I think it's also connected to something that was brought up earlier about the connection with Teilhard de Chardin. I put the little quote in there. Someday after mastering the winds, the waves, the tides, and gravity, we shall harness for God the energies of love, and then, for a second time in the history of the world, man will have discovered fire. This in some way, I think gets to a bit of what Erwin is after, that this may be the time when we are doing exactly as Desjardins is calling for. I talked with Erwin a while ago and said, so what is the quintessence of our cosmos? The essential characteristic, as something that Edgar Arthur Singer talks about, the essential characteristic of any system. And I skewed the question a little bit, asking, is it consciousness? Is it spirit? Is it love? So I gave him those three choices. And he came back and said, what's the difference?
Yeah.
With these things, that they are kind of fungible, they're transmutable among each other. But he said that there's only one of these three things between spirit, consciousness, and love. Only one of them has an internal motor force that that is always questing by its very nature, and that is love. Love is always engaged in a process of connecting and of oneness, whereas a spiritual state or consciousness can be more of a state. So I think this gets a little bit to what Desjardins was talking about as well. But the question then is, what are we, if as Christopher was saying here, what if we are tuning into different vibrational states, right? And if everything, harkening back to the 60s, if everything is vibration, but now we really are finding that this is so at the Planck length, there is only vibration. The classical physicists would say, well, wait, what is vibrating? Something has to be the carrier of the vibration, but that's the old paradigm. And the new paradigm, it is vibration that creates matter, right? And so these vibrational states, if we then understand that this is the nature, and the oneness, again, this is not a dualistic universe in the framing that Erwin has. This is a unitary cosmos. And in that framing, then it is a question of what are we tuning in, what are we listening into with our whole beings that allows us to be in that dynamic harmony. Desjardins talks about syntony, which is a kind of dynamic harmony with these processes of emergent coherence. That, I think, is what we can learn. And it is a collective thing. We don't do this just by ourselves. We are always, like human tuning forks, doing so together.
Well, I was I'm thinking well, I had two reactions. One was you can lead a horse to water. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And so I was thinking of remember the film that came out, I think in the 70s, Chiaroscuro, about the world out of balance. And I mean, there's certainly a lot of people right now that are feeling out of balance, out of harmony, and would listen to this whole discussion and say, well, I can't relate at all to this. I'm of the opinion that there really is a yearning for this oneness and wholeness and something separate, keeping them separate from it. So I guess the question is, what can be done? Is there any, because it seems to me all we can do is on the individual level, the more we meditate and the more we work on ourselves and the more we go for therapy, or this is how we do it, but we can't force other people to do it. And I think right now we're kind of on the brink of things could go either way. I mean, this is the ideal way is the way your father is saying it. And the other way is, we drop a nuclear bomb and there it all goes. Or AI decides that, humans are too irrational and we might as well get rid of them. And so the question is, what can keep people, what can get people, or is there a way to get everybody along that path, or does each person have to do it individually?
I'm still struggling with that question, Jerry. So far my answer has been only I see a clear way to do it individually and in small groups,
Yeah.
but to do it collectively at a level of like a political organization or political entity, a nation state, I find much more challenging to think about how you can do that. It doesn't seem to be working too well right now.
Yeah. And then I know Anna, I know you work a lot with the organizations, and so it would be nice, I guess, to say, okay, how would this influence like leadership in an organization?
Well, I was just curious because earlier I did ask Erwin when he was online, and maybe some people weren't there yet. Um, and I think, and Alexander and Chris can correct me on that one, but the sense that I got from Erwin was that to collectively hop on this sacred quest, it's the individual connecting to that field. That's how we're connecting collectively. I had commented from the perspective of doing these collective practices. I'm a Catholic. We do pilgrimages. You know, you can think of all those like visits, you know, pilgrimages to Lourdes or to Fatima, or in other faiths as well, these collective movements towards being together in a space of love. But I did get a different sense from Erwin. Maybe Alexander and Chris can clarify that. And it really sparked something for me, because yes, when I'm individually doing my practices, I do feel personally that I am connecting to that field, and that in that field, then I am together with not just other humans, but with, that's the whole point, with the cosmos, with creation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know, all of these practices, whether they're individual or collective, reinforce relational intelligence. We just found it out in our Delphi study, Anna Karina, right? That it's not just about self-regulation of the individual and individual capabilities. It's about their ability to relate, to be, in other words, to be a part of something larger. And when you're part of something larger, you have a chance to become part of a whole. My sense is that that's what my dad is seeing, is that there's a drive, there's a dynamic in human evolution to want to repair what is fragmented and divisive. And we do that by wanting to become and to heal holes again. Alex, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I do, and thank you, Chris. That's exactly right. This is regeneration as well as the healing, and there's also the transcendence involved, the emergence of the new, not just the regeneration of what is. I think that Erwin is inviting us as well to be a larger self, to not just engage in, and I think it's incredibly important, the power of prayer at the individual level and in all its different ways of engagement. We can pray, uh, uh, we can be in reverent, sacred relationship. This is the sacred quest. But to understand that when we do so as part of a community of being, a kind of Ubuntu-ness, but of nature, and then of not just of nature on planet Earth, but of the way the universe works, that we are also being prayed into existence. And when we do this with others, there is a resonance in the field, there is a greater emergence. So this is why it is absolutely important how we do this together. Buckminster Fuller talks about the trim tab. And I think it's at least as important, if not more so, than the tipping point, because the trim tab is that part of the rudder that begins the movement to help move the whole big ocean liner, which otherwise can't. There's so much flow of water past these huge ocean liners that they can't turn it even with the hydraulics. They would bend. So you have a little rudder on the big rudder, the trim tab, that begins, that you can turn. And that sets up a bit of turbulence and starts to move things. You talked, Jerry, about the butterfly effect. these little things can start the bigger process in movement. How can we be trim tabs together? And how, but it is about the togetherness. And I think what Erwin is calling for as well is kind of a shift from, well, the upshift from celebrating the strident individualism and the self-righteous independence of much of the Western ways of being, and calling us now not so much to be engaged in spotlighting the keynote speakers, but to celebrate the keynote listeners, and the best keynote listeners are the trees. So how can we do more of that and emerge the ecosystems, the thriving, flourishing ecosystems, simply by intertwingling, by interbeing in this way? I think that's part of what Erwin is calling for, this resonance, the coherence, and the alignment with these dynamics of the holotropic akashic field, right? Is moving towards wholeness and oneness.
Right. Good. Thank you, Alex. Well, Jerry,
Chris, this is Xiaoan. Can I make a quick comment?
Oh yeah, go ahead, Xiaoan. Yeah.
Yeah, this is Xiaoan. I'm here at the Fetzer Institute. I'm a member on the Flame Keepers Committee, and I'm so excited about this session for many reasons. One such as, of course, Mr. Laszlo and the very centering word sacred. It's not a word you throw around all the time. It is a word has a particular context, can be heavily loaded to some context. But for Fetzer, we've been head on wondering and asking this particular question. And I want to contribute to the conversation by saying that Peter Berger from 1960s, one of our finest sociologists, and they study religion, world religion, yet at the same time comfortably outside of it. His best known work, one of them, is The Sacred Canopy. It's a metaphor describing humans, the way we survive for 1,000 years because of this protective instinct. When we're hungry, we put clothes on. When we are cold, we put clothes on. Hungry with food. And there's one that is invisible to us, but incredibly important for us to survive, which is the sense-making, meaning-making protection that we have. And then for 1,000 years in religious institutions has been that part of infrastructure at the village level, in a town's level, at any community level. You just know when we go through stuff in our lives, when we feel confused, we feel like to go to a place where helping us to have a sense of direction. But that has largely been collapsing ever since 1490-ish, the Enlightenment movement age, revolutionary age. So we're kind of dealing with that, with the collapsing of religious able to provide still that sense of direction. Then where do we turn to? I think Erwin and that generation of leader are feeling a gap to say, in and outside of religious teaching context, we are still able to ask those deep questions. That's why Mr. Fetzer, John Fetzer, the Fetzer Institute, and he had this kind of 500-year vision. And one of his saying is, born into deep mystery, we cannot get away not asking, thinking about some of the deepest and the biggest questions, what it means to be human. I think Erwin's major contribution, it is exactly in that field, had the boldness to ask those questions, which we may never have answers for. How can we possibly answer the question about goodness versus evil? We just can't. However, though, it is timely in a way that who get to still lead us for that kind of questions when brokenness, separation tends to define everything. I want to kudos Erwin. I'm already wondering what it means to live in a Laszlo family like this. And then my final comments is, we seem to lose a generation of top thinkers because they're aging very beautifully. How can we cherish each and every moment? Like the one, the language little barrier, hard to hear, did not bother me a bit because I'm able to be in with Erwin by his presence and his energy. Everything else he needs to say is already in the book. But what's special for this moment is we get to be in the same energetic field with him.
The qualia.
So would love to continue this. We need to find time to continue this.
Yes.
So we have 5 people have raised their hands, and we have about 15, 17 minutes. So if everyone, so maybe if each one could be kind of brief, and Deborah, you already spoke once, so we'll start with Jody, then Iola, then Sky, then Lee, and then back to Deborah if there's time. But we would like to spend the last 5 minutes or so summing up. So, okay, Jody, you want to go first?
Well, I'm just, I've just kind of sat in wonder and listened to this. I've, of course, known some about, Erwin's work over the years. And then this chapter I read, is it really is inspiring. And of course, given my work on spiritual leadership, I've thought and talked and researched a lot about love. And so what really sticks out to me in his work is how he beautifully describes love as the cosmic glue, that evolutionary force that drives us toward a more informed and coherent state of oneness. I think that is just beautiful. And of course, it takes me to our, our work on spiritual leadership, which is also centered in love, and the definition that we've used since the beginning in the term altruistic love, which is defined as a sense of wholeness, harmony, and well-being produced through care, concern, and appreciation for both self and others. And so that what that brings me to is it brings me into MSR and what our purpose is, because the Flame Keepers have really been that's really been in the forefront of our meetings and our talk about later. And so, what is the minimum requirement of the must-have floor of the harmony and care that a leader needs to say that we are actually achieving this coherence, perhaps in organizations, and then somehow we can move this into more of a social context or a societal context. And that, I'd never thought about my work within that context. And so this is, I don't know how good it is, but I've never thought about that. So, and where's the tipping point? How much do we have to have? So these are all really important questions, I think, that we can ask within the context of MSR, and perhaps provides an impetus and momentum for moving forward as a division.
Yeah. Jody. Good point. Thanks, Jody. Iola?
Hi.
Lola.
Yes. Hi, Professor Laszlo. My name's Lola Brown. It's so great to I feel super honored to be here with all of you and see you, Anna Karina, and so great to spend time with you. This has been awesome. I thought a lot about, what I've learned. This idea of it really reminded me, Anna Karina, about our practices in more traditional areas, in that scripture that says there's nothing greater than faith expressing itself through love, and love being this energy. And so that really resonates. And I think about, in our individual practices, whether we're praying or meditating, I know many of us are also praying for the nation. We're also meditating for the universe. We are, co-conspirators with higher forces, with God, with beliefs that help us shape this. And I think what it really, spoke to me about was we can't allow maybe opposing energies to maybe have us believe that our individual practices don't also magnify to the universe, to the nation, to and spread that energy of love. And I know we don't have a lot of time for question, but that's an interesting question to me around how do you all, or how do we all think about how we fight individually and then bring that practice collectively, against opposing energy of love, right? Or opposing energies, or in oneness with it. I don't know, but it's what came to mind as I have listened to this, and I just look forward to hopefully continuing sessions. So again, thank you so much is the key thing I wanted to say, Professor Laszlo and Anna-Karina and everyone.
Glad you were here, Lola.
Thank you. Jim Schuyler.
Actually, it's not Jim, it's Catherine. Hi.
Oh, hi. I know. Yeah, I
Hi.
don't know.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So, just a couple. First, thank you, everyone. And I noticed a very long comment from Alexander on what Xiaoan said, and I'd love to have us bring him back in to comment before we close. But just something very brief. Two different streams that haven't been brought in here yet today that I think are very relevant. And one is the work of Peter Senge, built upon by Otto Scharmer in awareness-based systems change. And Otto has been thinking a lot about the current moment and what's changing and how to participate in that. And so I think having his thinking and maybe even him in this ongoing dialogue might be really wise. And another is I've been doing a lot of work based on Joanna Macy and John Seed's work on the ecological self, which is really not even thinking of us as being individuals doing our individual practice in a way that influences something else, because that starts from an othering perspective, that I am separate from you and from the living world, but rather finding practices that bring us into such connection with what you're calling here the whole, to then connect, think, and act from wholeness, rather than thinking of it as something that I over here need to connect with. So where you can look at that is in some of Joanna Macy's The Work That Reconnects, and some very interesting interviews with John Seed. And anyway, thank you all, and I would love to hear some closing comments from Alexander as well, if we can.
Thanks, Catherine. Sorry, I messed up there. Lee, can you make, we only have like 10 minutes left. Do you want to make a short comment so we can have time for Chris and Alexander? Go ahead.
Yes, so it covers several things, but I think it's short. So first, find myself at least unwilling to throw out other concepts that we have, such as Darwinian evolution in particular, which I think has a lot of support. So how do we fit that in? And there's the physics perspective, one of them, there are several, of the cyclic universe, which, as I understand it, also fits into Buddhism. So it's this unending mystery that goes along. And from a Buddhist thinker, and I don't remember who it was, but so my underlying question is, how do we live happily for ourselves and for others with this? And I think the thought helps that though things are always perfect, they can always be improved.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than living in misery, and when we're in misery, we're also angry, behaving badly often.
Mm-hmm.
And then that takes us, I think, to Chris's part of this, which hasn't been mentioned, which is appreciative inquiry, which I think is a way to move us in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my comment.
Thanks. Okay, so we have about 10 minutes left, and Alexander, do you have anything?
I'll be brief because I would love certainly Chris to have the last words here. First of all, we are We are it. We are doing this. This is the way it's done. By connecting, by engaging. We are the field expressing itself now, but we are also contributing to the greater coherence of the entire universe at this point. This is the beautiful, paradoxical idea of not being a drop in the ocean, but being the entire ocean in a drop. And together, we're expanding that drop. That's the powerful beauty of this. Yes, I also, well, just to pick up on that, sorry for the long post there, but it was inspired by what Xiaoan was mentioning there in terms of the sacred, Erwin's call for this as well, and the bringing in spirit deeply into the engagement. And I just wanted to connect it to the work around attention deficit disorder, which is fairly well known, nature deficit disorder, which is less well known, but more collective because it's about urban engagements, and then spirit deficit disorder, which is hardly addressed at all. But this is, I think, about that connection to spirit deficit disorder. What do we do to bring back this sacred connection with life through love? Again, this is Erwin, I think, in his essence. Mentioning Otto Scharmer and again also Joanna Macy and John Seed, I really like with Seed and Macy have this process called the Council of All Beings, which is a beautiful way of, again, being the keynote listeners, the vibrational connection to that which leads to greater coherence and oneness. This is a kind of Taoism. It's a way of bringing in as a perennial wisdoms around how do we attune to these patterns of emergence that lead towards supercoherence and oneness. And as Chris says, this is love. That is when you feel that and sense that. And this is the quintessence of the universe. So when we can tune more fully into that and then join in such engagements as this, we are creating the world. We are being the systems we wish to see in the world today. And I think this is part of Erwin's call for this sacred quest.
Yeah, thanks so much. Anna, you wanna?
I'm just touched by the importance, the significance of just living into love, and that being that energetic imprint for us to experience and to experience collectively. And I find that to bring it to reality, the word love sometimes in the workplace or in other places might be a little bit off-putting for some. It might be weird. And I find also finding other words that carry the same energy, like care, and just having conversations about care, compassion. Those are also very beautiful energies, very closely linked to love.
Yeah, I mean, this has been really, Chris, you want to say anything?
Just that when we do these things like love and care, we experience ease, Well, not everybody experiences ease in love relationships, but the kind of love my father's talking about, when you find that you can do that with ease, and it's just something that flows naturally.
Yeah.
That's the best sign that you are moving towards this kind of wholeness that gets us to this end goal of oneness.
I was thinking, yeah.
I found that in my life.
Yeah.
There are one or two people on this call who know how, when I feel a great love for them, it is with ease, and and how I experience it.
I was remembering, well, the idea that when we're born, we choose to be born, and then when we're born, we forget why we were here, and our whole life is trying to get back to, well, why were we, why are we here? And
Yeah.
this is what I see happening with this whole discussion, is like getting back to, it's like reconnecting with ourselves. And when we reconnect with ourselves, we reconnect with everyone. I have a sense that we need to have at least one or two more of these webinars to keep this discussion going. I don't know.
Important topics for sure.
Yeah.
because they have not only to do with the future of humanity, but they have to do with each of us, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to thank everyone. We got about 4 minutes left. This was really amazing. Chris, really thank your father, and I hope he's
Yes.
okay, you know.
He he wasn't sure he was going to be able to do it about even an hour ago. But I
Yeah,
think
so that was,
all of you inspired him to speak. I think he
yeah,
wanted to do it once he saw the questions and the energy from all of you.
yeah.
So thank
Someone
you.
is asking, can the organizers allow copying transcriptions chat? Gaetan, how do we do that?
So I will see. I'm 90% sure we can have the transcript. I will add it under the video on YouTube when we're going to post the video of recording of this.
Okay, that's good. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone. This was a really great session. Thank you all for attending. And
Thank you,
any
Jerry, for
closing
leading.
comments? Well, thank you for being there. And it was a really nice meeting Alexander and your father and Anna. It's the second time I met you. It's very, hope we stay in touch.
Yes.
And okay, I guess that's Chris,
Yeah.
you have a closing comment?
No, just love to
Oh,
all of you.
okay, there you go. As we
Bye.
know, all you need is love, right?
That's
Jerry, I
it.
guess you can make
Yes.
one quick announcement is for
Go
those
ahead,
who are still
Xiaoan.
not a member of MSR. You know, if you're joining this group for the first time, you like the topic over here, and you like to be more in a relationship and be exposed to conversation as such, consider join MSR, which is Management, Spirituality, and Religion.
Yes.
I'm shamelessly kind of advertising.
Yeah, shameless plug for MSR. And yes,
Thank
yeah,
you, Xiaoan.
everyone is welcome. And thanks again. And what do we say? Go in peace. Peace and love.
Go with
Thank
God.
Thank
Go
you,
with
Anna
God. Yeah.
Karina, Alexander, Chris. Thank you so much.
Merci, Richard.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you.